In this tutorial, we're going to go ahead and work with some beginning color splash techniques. With color splash, you're going to be using the power of black and white and the power of color to make something pop. Of course, there's a zillion different ways to do this. I'm going to teach you just some of the very beginning ones. Let's go ahead to Canvas, go to Color Splash Techniques, go ahead and grab Color Splash Baby and Color Splash Pansy. Now, when you get them, you might need to go in to do a right click, open with Photoshop. Either that or you need to go to a Photoshop and open it. Otherwise, depending on your computer, there's a good chance it will not open in Photoshop. All right, let's go ahead and start with a non-destructive way to edit this photo using a layer mask. When we're using non-destructive editing, it means we can undo what we did. We are not actually changing the pixels themselves. We can go back and undo it. So what we're going to go ahead and open up our baby. And we're going to create a new fill adjustment layer, which is the little half moon here at the bottom. And we want to go ahead and choose black and white, which is about halfway down. So you'll see now in my layers I've got a new adjustment layer. We're going to go ahead, we can fine tune. You can pull that down a little bit, a little more stuff in the panel. And you can fine tune how the black and white looks. You can just go ahead and push auto, and it'll help clean that up a little bit. Depends on what you want it to look like. From there, we're going to go ahead and we need to create a mask. So we're going to go ahead and go to our brush tool. We're going to select a brush of about 50 and a hardness of 0. I'm going to go ahead and click up here in the top to get out of there. Now with using masks, you're going to be painting with black and white. Black will reveal and white will cover things back up. So I'm going to go ahead and Control plus in because I want to be able to see a hat. I can hit my space bar and pull down a little bit because what I really want to do is reveal her hat. So I'm going to take my paintbrush and go ahead and start painting over what I want to reveal. Going very carefully over the edges as a way to reveal that. If I want to, I can also use my selection tools. Use my quick select to select it. Make sure you take the face back out. Obviously, the size of your brush is going to affect what you've got going on. Got a little bit extra going on down here. Let's make sure we take that out. Alright, so now I have her hat, mostly. Add this section back in. Alright, so then I can go ahead and grab my brush with my tool. Because I have a selection, I can make the brush as big or as small as I want because it's only going to touch the selection. And I rub back and forth. So you can either paint it, you can do a quick selection. There's a few different things to do. Okay, I'm going to grab my brush, make it smaller. Now you'll notice that if I could scroll in a little bit, I got some parts of the skin which I don't necessarily want. I'm going to go ahead and switch my brush to white, make it smaller, and I can go in over that section and I paint with white and it will cover it back up with the black and white. So you do have a way to go ahead and control that. I'm going to do my Control minus. And I've got not a bad selection right now. So I'm going to go ahead and Control D and Control out of that. And I've created a color splash effect. I'm going to go ahead and save this one as file. Save as Color Splash Baby 1. And save. So we created this color splash using a mask or non-destructive editing. Let's go back to our history, go back to open, and reset our picture. And do my Control minus, zoom back out. Next thing we can do is create a couple different layers to create a different kind of mask. So we're going to go ahead and on our background layer, right click, duplicate layer, and make a background layer. On this background layer, we're going to go to Image, Adjustments, and black and white. So now we have destructively changed those pixels. We have now made them permanently black and white. We can go ahead and push auto to adjust that if we like, or you can play with your sliders to get the kind of quality you want. Oh, let me redo it. Image, Adjustments, Black and White, and Auto, and OK. So now I have a black and white layer and a color layer. So what I'm going to do is grab my quick selection tool and go ahead and I'm going to quick select just the hat, just like we did before. Take some minus, get that bit out under the chin. Of course, you can do a magnetic lasso. There's a lot of different ways to select just the hat. With this way, all we have to do is hit backspace or delete, and we go ahead and remove that black and white bit over top of the color. So I can hit deselect. From there, I can then go ahead and play with my hue and saturation if I want to change the color. So on my background copy, the original, which is what I want to intensify, I'm going to go up to Adjustments. I'm going to go here to Hue and Saturations, and I can play with my hue slider and actually change the color of the hat pretty easily. I can also play with the saturation, which will help to determine just how bright that color is. So it kind of depends on what you're trying to achieve in the end. Let's do a File, Save As, and name that Color Splash Baby 2. Alright, so those are two different ways to create a very similar effect very easily, but these were simple because they had one big range of color. What happens when you don't have one range of color to select? Let's go ahead and look at the pansy. With the pansy, you'll see we've got purple all over the place, but we don't necessarily want to go in and have to quick select every single little bit of purple. It's really, really difficult. So we can use something called the color range in Photoshop in order to help make it a little bit easier. So we're going to go up to Select. Halfway down is Color Range. And I'm going to get a few different things here. I want to go ahead and select the sampled colors, and I want selection to be Image to make it a little bit easier for me to see what I'm doing. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use my dropper, the first dropper, and select the purple. So you can see in the image it's telling me what are we selecting. I can change the fuzziness, which means how closely do you want to select those colors. I can decide, okay, I want to make sure I get this middle dark purple too as well. And you'll see I start to get a little bit more. Change my fuzziness. Decide I don't like that purple, do the minus, and take it back out. So it kind of depends on what you want to accomplish. You can play with range, you can play with quite a few different elements as far as grabbing that purple goes. So I've got pretty good, not getting this one very well, so go ahead and add that little bit of purple. And maybe a little bit more there. So you can see anything that's in the white right now will be what I'm going to end up keeping as the color. So I can look at it in grayscale. I can change it to black matte, which pops the color. I can look at it on white, and I can also look at it on a quick mask. I like to look at the white or the black depending on how much I want to play with things. So see, I'm picking up even more color. Change my fuzziness because I only want to grab the flowers. I don't really want to grab the leaves down below. And when I'm happy with it, before I finish, I want to select Invert, which means I want you to select everything but. And we're going to say OK. Then we're going to go ahead and we need to create the black and white. So we're going to go to Image, Adjustments, and Black and White. This is destructive editing. So notice everything that is not selected is now black and white. And I can go ahead and play with my black and white sliders again. Change how deep and dark those blacks and other colors are going to be. When I'm happy with it, I say OK. I can also go back into my adjustments, grab hue and saturation, and play with my adjustment layers again. My hues. Maybe I want to make it a slightly different purple. Maybe I want to make the purple even darker. How light or dark the image is overall. So there's quite a few different ways. So instead of us having to go through and individually choose all those elements, it made it really easy for us to create this image with only a few clicks. This works really well if you're trying to do things like grab all the red in a stadium, if you want to grab a field full of flowers. I've seen concerts done really well with grabbing just the lights. Depends on how you're going to use it to create that color splash effect. How are you going to use color to tell your story? You're going to do a file, save as, and color splash pansy, and name it 1 so you don't override your other one, and save that image. So those are 3 really simple ways to play with a color splash technique.